Okay, hi guys, how are you? Welcome to the class. So you just feel free to make your comments in the chat, and of course, I'm going to be requesting you to do so here and there so that we can be able to have a discussion and contribute to the topics. So otherwise, let's get on to it because of time. Okay. So again, mental health and illness. This is the course that we'll be going through. And we're going to start from the first lecture. We'll try and compound everything into this short duration of time that we have because of the crash program for this particular semester. We have very little time, okay? But we'll be able to definitely cover everything that we need to. Okay, so what will we learn today? So today we're going to introduce mental health and illness. We're going to understand what mental health is, what mental illness is, and the major theories that explain mental health. Of course, at this level, you are aware that in your explanation of information, you need to relate them to various theories, and these theories, your understanding of the theories will demonstrate your understanding of the material or your ability to be able to discuss the material. Okay, and of course these theories do not totally explain the circumstances, but they may give us an angle or an understanding or shed light into the major aspect of the subject matter, right? So we are always able to then cushion, the other side that we cannot explain with a different theory. Okay, it shows that we appreciate the proponents before us and the information that they took time to put together, to research, to build up the subject matter that we are currently on. Okay, so please feel free to type in the comments. The first question I'd like you to type in the comments, the response to that is, what comes to your mind when you hear the words mental health? What comes to your mind when you hear mental health? Please just feel free and yeah, type what you feel mental health is to you. Okay, so why does this matter? Especially for us as social workers. So, mental health affects how we live in the society, it affects how we work being a major contribution um, in supporting society, the economics of society. It supports or it affects how we relate, the social aspects of society, the building and the maintaining of relationships. In our country, particularly, mental health is very important because of so many reasons, but among them, the rising depression among the youth, substance abuse rising, the levels of substance abuse are rising around the country. The suicide cases have been increasing, among so many other mental health related issues. For example, we have a young boda boda rider in Kakamega who is facing police harassment and financial stress. So this gentleman develops depression. So based on that case example, please just also write three key mental health challenges that you feel are emerging or, you know, are prominent in your county, the particular county that it doesn't have to be the county you come from, maybe where you work. Huh? Okay. So we'll start off by looking at the definitions. We have mental health. According to WHO 2022, it is a state of mental well being. So being well, that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, to realize their abilities, to learn well and work well and contribute to their communities. So it doesn't mean that people don't have stresses. It means that stresses in life exist, but people are able to cope with these stresses. And in the circumstances they're in, they're able to achieve their potential in terms of realizing their abilities. They're able to learn and work well, and they're able to make contributions. So they're able to feel significant. So it's not merely an absence of mental illness. It includes emotional, psychological, and social well being of the person. So, opposite to that, we have mental illness. And I'm just requesting you, please just type one type of or example of mental illness in the comments that stands out to you. So, mental illness refers to clinically significant disturbances, okay, different from the norm, significantly above the norm in an individual's cognition, how they think and process information, emotional regulation, how they handle their emotions, or behavior, okay, how they act, that reflects dysfunction in psychological, biological, and developmental processes. So again, the emphasis here is that um, there can be disturbances in cognition, in how we think, in emotion, emotional regulation, okay, balance of emotion, and in how we behave. But when they are clinically significant as compared to the general population, then we are highly likely to regard the person as mentally ill. So let's look at what mental health and illness would cover. We look at this from various levels, just as in social work. Our clients are individuals, groups, communities. So at the individual level, some of the concerns we put across are the self-esteem of individuals and how they cope with problems, their coping skills. So this will determine a lot about how mentally healthy they are or can be. Then at family level, which is an example of a group that we'll be working with, and emphasis here is that family is very key in terms of mental health. We can talk about parenting and how that can affect the mental health of children, the family dynamics, okay, how people relate in the family, how they gel. At the community level, we can talk about support systems that are there for community members, like the various institutions, like religious institutions, uh, chamas, neighborhood committees, things that give people a sense of belonging. We can look at aspects like stigma in the community, stigma about mental illness. Okay, those of course would affect a person within that community, especially a person who is mentally ill. Then we have the policy level, which is important in to be able to apply within a given geographical space, like in our country. We'll need legislation to be able to practice. We have mental health legislation. We have considerations of funding, okay, to support mental health. All right, so that covers the scope of mental health and illness that particularly will be focused on as social workers, because those are our clients as social workers. So let's dive into the theories that I was talking about. Um, Now, you remember this from your introduction to psychology and your various interactions with theory. We have various theories. For example, we have the biopsychosocial model, which was really going to emphasize on in terms of our intervention for mental illness. And the key idea here, in terms of the biopsychosocial model, is the interaction of factors, social, psychological, and biological factors. We're going to unpack that later. So, for example, somebody who's trying to recover from drugs maybe has left rehab and is back into the community may experience stigma from community members, and that stigma is a social aspect. After going through the drug rehabilitation processes, including using medication, which would be biological, okay, and going through various psychological therapies, right, and psychosocial support provisions. Then we have the psychodynamic theory, and from your recall, this is guided by the proponent Sigmund Freud, where Freud proposed that there's this continuous battle in our minds when we're trying to make decisions about what to do or what not to do. The fight between the ego, and the super ego, and eventually the pull between the id and the super ego gives into the ego, which decides whether you will do the correct thing or the wrong thing. And this is influenced a lot by childhood experiences. So, for example, this would be relevant if you're working with those who have gone through trauma, okay? Traumatic experiences, especially long term trauma. Then we have CBT, cognitive behavioral theories. This focus on how thoughts affect behavior, how we process information, how our mind and how it processes information affects behavior. And so this would be relevant in addressing negative thinking. There's a great example that is usually given, or a video. I'll share it with you if I can get it. You know how we have the stairs whereby if somebody is position one, they stand on the first stair, or even at the Olympics, and the persons who are position two and three stand on their left and right. Okay, and those boards are labeled in terms of their positions. So in this particular clip, the person who got position one appeared very sad, and a little boy, he was crying. And then there was the one who got position three and was so excited about, getting that position three, and was lifting up their um, trophy, smaller trophy, but lifting up their trophy with excitement. So, thinking positively despite not even being position one. Okay. Then we have humanistic theories. You recall these were brought in by Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, putting the human being first, um, the client centered approach, giving the human person dignity and worth. Okay. And this would particularly be helpful in counseling, where you need to make the client feel valued, feel heard, feel that you are genuinely interested in addressing their issue. We also have the social cultural theory. This brings in the aspect of our local contexts. Okay. And the key idea here is that culture shapes mental health. So what we grow up believing will shape our mental health. For example, belief in witchcraft. So that is just a brief, and I've then gone further and explain these in detail, which you can read, okay, about those various theories, and of course, other theories not limited to this. So just please post in the comment section which theory you think best explains mental illness in your community. Here, I've just put a picture. It is in like a market or a village. This young man is suspected to have been bewitched and they're trying to treat him. Okay. So this person is labeled as bewitched instead of being treated medically. And you can see that they're applying some kind of medication to him. So what we can take away from here is that mental health does not mean any absence of illness. Okay. Uh, it is influenced by biological, psychological, and social factors. And culture plays a big role in our country because we are highly culturally informed based on our African beliefs. Please also type in the comments what your biggest takeaway is. We'll then move on to lecture 2. And here, what we learn basically are now we're getting in depth into the bio psychosocial model, and want to explore how this model is used to influence mental health. And why does this model matter? Because mental illness is not usually caused by one thing. For example, we have a university student, and this university student is going through stress, they're having financial problems, they are facing pressure from their family. Okay. So, in regards to this particular case, please just write 3 possible causes of depression in students, particularly that, yeah, you're also a student. So we can look at this diagram, the biopsychosocial model diagram. You can see the factors, the biological factors are listed there that are likely to, again, influence mental health, the social factors, and the psychological factors. Okay. I think we have to move. Let me see if I can move to a quieter environment. The weather has begun acting up, and then we'll continue the class, okay?